I'm Bobby Halton, and we're here at the fire engineering headquarters. Actually, we're in my office, and I've got my mentor, my friend, Chief Alan Brunacini, and we're going to visit with the Chief today about a myriad of topics, everything from incident command, customer service, to fairness, to what's going on in the world today. We'll talk a little bit about tactics and strategy. We'll talk about a lot about Mrs. Smith, probably in the process. But we want to talk to the Chief first off this morning about himself and get a little history from the Chief. The Chief is probably currently in the fire service one of the longest standing members of the fire service who would be categorized as what's called today a thought leader, somebody who has innovated, created, found new solutions, come up with new ideas. The Chief had a great saying that he taught me years ago. He said, "It was just an idea, nobody said it was a good one." But what that meant was...
Just an idea.
Yeah, you have to try.
Right.
You have to try things. And I think our favorite story that we've shared with people over the years is the Coca-Cola story. And it was my favorite change story. And before the Chief tells his story to you, the Coke story really quickly, just so people know, is there was two young executives came up with the idea for New Coke.
New Coke, yeah.
And New Coke was probably the biggest corporate mistake, recorded that I can think of. That was an honest mistake, just an honest mistake. No tomfoolery involved or corruption. Just these guys thought, hey, New Coke, it's time to change the formula. And they went to the board with it, and they sold it to the board. And the chairman of the board at the time, whose name I can't remember, said, "Okay, let's run with it. Let's go with it." Lost billions, almost put Coke out of business, right? And the moral of the story is, do you know where those two guys are today? And most people figure they're out, working for
selling cars.
Selling cars, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. on the back lot of Tom's Used Autos.
Right, yeah.
But actually, when the board met again and people were calling for these guys' heads and demanding their resignations and demanding somebody be accountable, the CEO of the company stood up and said, "No, I made the decision to back their idea, and at Coca-Cola, it's okay to have ideas, and no idea is out of bounds." And he goes, "They stay." And those two guys today are still executives with Coca-Cola.
He said we invested $1 billion in their education. We're not going to let it go. What a great comment!
What a great line!
That's right. Yeah.
But he stood up.
What do you mean
for
we're going to fire him? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He says we invested $1 million or $1 billion in them.
Whatever they lost.
Yeah, which was
it's $1 billion education.
Come on, don't make it worse.
We always talk about that when we talk about guys you're going through stuff.
Talk about risk taking.
Yeah.
$1 billion. That's a lot of American dollars.
But what a great guy to work for. In the process. I mean, what a brilliant guy when you think about it.
Well, they said that the two guys that developed that went through that, they said in the long run made Coke billions of dollars because of how innovative they were. This was just one of their projects. Didn't turn out too hot.
No.
But that they ended up making Coke a ton of money after that in the process because they were so innovative. So there is another moral, I guess, to the story when you think about it. It's a big deal, though.
It's a big deal. I love that story.
Yeah, I know it.
I always, because every now and then, you have one of those aha moments. And you want to float some balloon, and you're thinking, is my boss a Coca-Cola boss, or is my boss, a Marie Antoinette boss?
That's right. Yeah. He's got a guillotine in his office.
Am I going to end up with, putting my head down and watching it roll into a basket, or is the guy going to say, "Okay, it was an idea"?
They probably knew their boss. In other words, that wasn't their first rodeo with their boss. So I mean, they knew that their boss would let them take a chance.
Yeah. Well, when we get to functional boss behaviors today, and we will,
we will. Good.
I want to go over that because I think that being a boss today is really important, and how you set the tone and how you, and it doesn't mean you have to be the big man in the house, but you got to be the boss.
That's right.
And I think people get confused about that, like who's the most popular or whatever. But when you're the boss, you got to be the boss.
Yeah.
So let's go back, and it's 1957, and young Alan Brunacini is looking for a job as a firefighter. And I know you always wanted to be. You grew up wanting to be a firefighter, but your dad was an attorney, and your family was in other businesses. Were there any firefighters before you?
No, I was the first one. I was the first black sheep.
Yeah, but you were a black sheep from the time you were
A little kid.
a little kid. Yeah, you were chasing fire trucks and hanging out in firehouses.
You know, I think that I'm the perfect, either the best or the worst example of being in the right place at the right time. And when I was going to high school, I lived in Albuquerque. We were both Albuquerqueans.
Albuquerque people, yeah.
But I visited Phoenix when I was, I don't know, probably a junior in high school. And I decided I wanted to live in Phoenix. I just fell in love with Phoenix. So I knew that I wanted to be a firefighter, and I knew I wanted to live in Phoenix.
You know, I once asked somebody, I love Phoenix also, and I said, you know, what's not to love about Phoenix? The guy looked me right in the eye and he said, August.
I was going to say summer. Yeah, summer. You ever been here in August? Yeah. No, you can fall out of love in August pretty much. So I went to college a couple of years because I knew you had to be 20. In those days, you had to be 21 to get on the fire department. Of course, now you can be a firefighter when you're 18, if they changed that, which I think is very good. So I went to college a couple of years. Then I transferred to Arizona State. In fact, then it was Arizona State College. Now it's Arizona State University. So that's how long ago it was. And was going to college there when I got hired on the fire department. But it was, Phoenix had probably 11 or 12 fire stations when I joined the fire department. And I think when I left, we had over 60.
Wow.
So it showed, I guess, just if you look at sort of those numbers, I got in at the time when the thing was growing so much.
So in '58, with same kind of process, you went down, took a physical agility.
Physical agility, written test, oral interview,
spent
background
some time
check.
in the academy.
Yeah, we spent 2 weeks in the academy.
What were the, you know, and I'm just curious. I mean, what were the guys like? I mean, most of us think of the '50s and the '60s, and we have Leave It to Beaver and Happy Days, and you know, kind of iconic characters like that in the back of our minds, and you know, Opie and Andy, and kind of a different time. I mean, it was kind of a different time.
You know, it's interesting. There was kind of a cross section of people, but there was in those days they hired mostly athletes and construction workers. And I had been a construction worker. I'd worked in construction all the time. I was going to college, and when I was in high school too. So I qualified in half of that. I was sort of the construction part of that process. But it was an earlier time. There, it seemed, and maybe every generation has this feeling. It seemed as though there were more characters. It seemed like the system was loose enough that you could allow a lot more differences in people's personalities. And there were a lot of interesting personalities, particularly when I came on the fire department. And when I came on in '58, it was kind of not the tail end, but there were guys that had gone through the Second World War. In other words, they were firefighters, and then they got drafted in the Army. So they had a military experience, and then they came back to the fire department.
Wow.
So they brought that. There's a lot of Navy guys for some reason. I don't know why the Phoenix Fire Department went to the Navy.
Yeah, a lot of seaports in Phoenix.
I know, yeah. So that's our nautical.
It's like the one thing
connection.
you don't have is water.
That's right. But it was interesting because there was a lot of Navy slang and sort of Navy mentality, you know, sort of on a ship and that sort of thing, and which I thought was fabulous because to me it was funny. I mean, it had kind of a humorous.
Well, it really fits the historical nature of the fire service.
The fire
if you think
service,
about
yeah.
A lot of our pike poles,
Sure,
Admiral
yeah.
Pike.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that
Yeah.
our uniforms, our Navy uniforms, our
Sure,
rank
yeah,
structure,
sure.
really more of a Navy model than an
Yeah,
Army model,
yeah,
if you will.
yeah.
Otherwise, our company officers would be sergeants.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of borrowed more from the Navy than.
And they had
anybody
the former Navy guys who I loved these guys because they had the most, I don't know if it was fatalistic attitude about the organization. In other words, that we were kind of the Navy. And you put up with a lot of things and you tolerated a lot of things. You didn't join it necessarily, you know, some of these organizational things. But they were really interesting characters, and I, like I say, I had never been in this. I never was in the service, so I was fascinated by these characters.
Well, and they've got an interesting credo. The Navy has always had. They teach first thing they teach a kid in the Navy: my son's a Navy pilot, so he taught me some of the Navy stuff. Is that there's the first day one, everybody gets the same 3 words ingrained in them: ship, shipmate, self. And they tell them, if you're loyal to the ship and you care about the ship and you take care of the ship, you won't have to worry about your shipmates. If you take care of your shipmates, make sure your shipmates are okay, back up your shipmates, you won't have to worry about yourself, and you always worry about yourself last. So it's the ship, shipmates, and self.
Yeah.
And they ingrain that in these guys. And the other neat thing about the Navy, if you think about it, the second thing they teach them is every sailor is a fireman first.
That's right, yeah, because
Think about
when this
that.
place is burning, buddy, we're all...
How long can you tread water?
That's right, yeah.
You either put the fire
None of
out
us
to-
can swim that good. Yeah, we're not that good as swimmers, yeah.
So
You know, those guys, it seemed like, I don't know for what reason, kind of adopted me. They were very kind to me. They were very supportive. They explained a lot of things to me. Maybe I was a more willing student, I guess, because I was kind of fascinated with what we were doing.
Back then there was less, and I'm going to use the word conformity. In other words, today there's a huge push to conform. You know, and we see it all the time where folks say to us, like, okay, this is the way we should, the whole nation should, and no disrespect to standards, I get standards, but everybody should do this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not this guy. You know, and I think maybe back then, because there wasn't...
There's more tolerance.
There's more tolerance.
Towards, yeah. I think you're
social,
right. Yeah.
Social media has made us less tolerant,
yeah.
I think, because...
Kind of bunched us up more.
Yeah. We're more little, you know...
Compartmentalized,
little boxes. Everybody gets put in a little
right,
box, and you know, you're either this or that. You know,